Hi there, and welcome to the latest episode of Cool People. Now, over the last few years, since I came out very publicly as being transgender and started doing trans awareness training and public speaking, I've met all sorts of incredible people with amazing stories to tell, and they've become my friends. And so the whole purpose of Cool People is to share my friends with you. And so I've got a new friend with me today, and his name is Brian Abram. And he had a life-changing accident in 2013, and which rendered him paraplegic and a wheelchair user. And he's since then gone on to be a children's author, and he now goes into schools to talk to children about what it's like to be paraplegic and to be a wheelchair user. So absolutely amazing story. So I'm really looking forward to talking to him. It's a real treat. So welcome, Brian.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Fine, thanks. And thanks ever so much for joining me.
Welcome.
So what I usually like to do with these interviews is to go right back to the start, because it's much better to actually tell the story. So would you like to sort of tell me a bit about what your life was like before your accident?
Okay, well, I won't go right back to childhood because that would be very boring and we'd be here all day. But
I always do that when I tell my stories.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a few years prior to having my accident. Well, I sometimes reluctant to admit who I used to work for because when you say you used to work for a bank, people can get a bit upset. But I was one of the good guys. I worked for a big bank in one of the sort of risk roles. If you've ever had a mortgage on your house, a surveyor will have come around and had a look at it. And I used to manage all of those surveyors for one of the big banks. So quite a big job, managing sort of thousands of people actually and stuff all around the country. So yeah, and then one day the bank decided that they probably had enough of me, really. I was only 52 and my face didn't fit any longer, so they decided to get rid of me. And it was horrible at the time, as you can imagine. With hindsight, the best thing that ever happened to me. It was wonderful, but I didn't think that at the time.
52 as well. It's a horrible age to be made redundant because you're still young enough. You've got a lot left in you to give, and yet at the same time, employers are very ageist in terms they don't want to take older workers, do they?
Yeah, I think so. And but the good thing, of course, was having done the job that I did. It was a well-paid job, and financially it wasn't such a massive problem for me. But yes, I still need to do something. So rather than go off into some other corporate life, I decided to work for myself. And I used to do lots of training on leadership and management consulting, because I run such a big business with lots of people and lots of offices. I could add something to organizations, and I managed to get quite a bit of work. So I did that, working for myself. It was great because I only had to work when I wanted to. Marvelous. I was lucky enough to have a lovely house in Spain, as well as living in Yorkshire in a nice village. And of course, this was great because I could go off to Spain and fly there whenever we wanted to. Do you remember the days when you could fly abroad?
Absolutely.
Sounds bizarre now, doesn't it?
But, I know.
But we could go there whenever we wanted. Sometimes we'd drive there and spend, most of the summer there, and I'd fly back and do jobs here and there. So life was pretty good, actually. But then I decided with a friend of mine who was of a similar age, and he was coming out of business, that we would do something a bit silly. We decided we'd get on our bicycles and ride all the way to the south of Spain and raise some money for charity, maybe, but actually just do it for fun. I think we were planning to pack a credit card and a few changes of clothes, and that was it, So it was like the cycling equivalent of glamping. We weren't going to be roughing it. Because I was a keen cyclist. I was a classic mammal, the middle-aged man in Lycra.
I would like to say.
Well, yeah, but a not so close friend of mine said, he said, "You look like a black condom filled with walnuts," which I thought was a bit unkind. But
you don't know where to look, do you?
He had a point, you know what I mean? I wasn't the fittest guy in the world, but I did love cycling. And I don't know if you know anything about places, Halifax and West Yorkshire, but it's hilly. There are hills everywhere. So I couldn't leave the house without cycling up or down a hill. So I got quite fit. And I loved it because I had time and it got me out of the house. kept me reasonably fit. So I'm early 50s. I'm the classic mammal. But me and my mate were going to do this long bike ride. So we bought new bikes, big touring bikes, that you could hang your panniers on, and off we went. So that was the plan. And I thought I'd better get a bit of practice in, because I wasn't that fit that I could cycle all the way down to the south of Spain, going over hilly bits and things. So one morning, a bright Sunday morning, 4th of August, 2013, me and my wife had stayed with some friends in a little village in Derbyshire. Went out in Manchester. We had a nice night. The next day, I brought the bike with me because I thought this is an ideal bit of training, 33 miles to cycle back home again. Beautiful, sunny August Sunday morning. So that was the plan. I got 1 mile down the road, unfortunately, before everything went pear-shaped. So yeah, that was the fateful day when I had the accident. I don't remember everything about it, but I remember enough to get the flashbacks and everything. So shall I tell you what happened?
Yes, please. Yeah, I was just going to ask you that. Yeah, please.
So, I mean, there's not much more to know about life before then, really. It was good. No. Financially, we were okay. We had lots of leisure time. As I say, backwards and forwards to Spain. Everything was pretty good. Oh, and I should mention, by the way, our first grandchild, actually our only grandchild, was born in the February of that year. So that was brilliant. Looking forward to doing everything I could with him, young Charles. He was a lovely little boy. So yeah, everything was good. Anyway, so that morning, off I get on my bike, and I got 1 mile down the road. What happened, as far as I can tell, was that the road was in a wooded valley, and the road was narrowing quite a lot. And although it was a quiet Sunday morning, there was a motorist behind me who was very, very impatient to get past me, because had he not done at that particular point, he would have been stuck behind me for quite a way. Okay. And he obviously didn't want to do that. So all I remember was looking to one side and seeing quite an angry face. Road rage, I suppose you'd call it. He just wanted me out of the way because he wanted to get past. He didn't hit me. I know that. I think I'd know if he hit me. But I did feel sort of intimidated. And I know, if anybody's watching this and they are a cyclist, they'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, the motorist who's just that bit too close and makes you feel uncomfortable. But my bad luck then kicked in terribly, I'm afraid, because as I moved in a little bit to keep out of his way, the bike skidded a bit on some gravel, and there was a stone wall at the side of me. Now, had the stone wall been normal height, I would have probably hit it, probably scraped my leg, fallen on the floor, and that would have been the end of it. But the really bad luck was that the wall was only about a couple of feet high. So what happened, if you can imagine, my bicycle kind of pivoted over it, throwing me off. Next bit of bad luck was that instead of landing on a nice soft piece of grass, it was a very steep embankment. So I was flying through the air down this embankment. I then hit a tree backwards.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it hurt. All I remember was, if you can imagine falling backwards, I remember seeing the sky and seeing the branches of the trees going away from me as I went backwards, and then thud, hit a tree and dropped like a stone. And I dropped into a river. It's going well, this, isn't it? It was a very shallow, because it was August, it was dry, very shallow, fast-flowing river. I don't know what river it was. I should have looked that up, really, shouldn't I? And I was face down, and I couldn't move. Now, that wasn't good. I remember vividly seeing the pebbles on the bottom of the river, and the shock of obviously cold water and the pain of what had just happened anyway. Yeah. And I couldn't move, and I thought, this really isn't very good at all. I felt down at my leg, and I realized that I couldn't feel my leg. And again, I suppose instinctively, when something horrible's happened, and I thought, this is not good. Yeah. Now, what happened next is a bit sketchy, but those stories of people who suddenly get kind of a superhuman strength to lift a car off a small child or something, you know, in the event, in a crisis. I somehow managed to get off my stomach and onto my side. I don't know how I had the strength to do it, but I somehow did.
Wow.
So I got my face out of the water, which was better. And I then tried to shout for help, but I was obviously, I didn't know it, but I was so badly injured. I must have just been whimpering, really. But then I had some good luck because somebody heard me. And I just heard somebody shout, "There's somebody in the river, there's somebody in the river." I don't remember anything else after that. Now, in my mind, I think I kept my head out of the water until they came to rescue me. I found out over a year later that that isn't the case, because by a bizarre coincidence, which I could talk about later, maybe, I found the person who saved me.
I was going to ask you about
found,
that.
yeah. Did you read that? Yeah.
I did.
I found the person who actually found me, and she apparently was walking a dog and held my head out of the water whilst somebody else called 999. Because of where I was, it was a very steep wooded valley. So getting me out of the river, knowing I was probably spinally injured, obviously, you know, you can't just drag somebody out. I think it was a combination of mountain rescue and the fire brigade that got into the river, got me on a kind of a board, and got me out, and then into an ambulance and off to Manchester Royal Infirmary, none of which I remember because I was gone by that point. I was then in a coma for, I think it was about 3 weeks, which was interesting. There's quite a lot to say about that, actually, believe it or not. But yeah, I was in a coma for about 3 weeks. I discuss this with my wife often. She doesn't think they're expecting me to survive. And the reason she says that is I got a very, very bad pressure sore. Now, don't know what you know about pressure sores, probably very little.
Not really, no.
Right, okay. Well, a pressure sore happens. You normally associate them with old people, but they can happen to anybody. And all the pressure sore is squeezing your tissue between a bony prominence and a hard surface.
Yeah.
So bony prominence, hard surface, the tissue in between starts to lose its blood supply.
Okay.
When you're sitting on a chair, your bum goes a bit numb, so you move, don't you? I obviously couldn't, and I wasn't moved as frequently as I should have been by the hospital staff.
Because that's why they have special mattresses, don't they, in the hospital?
Correct. Air mattresses and things. Absolutely right. But unfortunately, I wasn't on one of those, and they had to keep me perfectly still. I had a head restraint on and stuff. I was bloated up, but I ended up with a pressure sore. Now, you can get a pressure sore within hours. So within a few days, I had a very, very bad pressure sore at the base of my spine, which is a very vulnerable place, the sacrum. And yeah, so once you get that, the tissue dies, and it's then a long job to recover it. So my wife thinks that they didn't kind of do enough to stop me getting that sore, because they honestly didn't think I was going to make it. Maybe true, maybe not. I'll never know, will I? I won't know.
No.
But anyway, when I eventually was transferred, I think 6 days later, to Salford Royal Infirmary in the ICU department there. So all these poor people who've been in ICU with COVID, I know what they've been through. I had to have intubation through their tracheostomy. They punch a hole in, put that on. You can't speak, obviously. You can't breathe without that, because I had all sorts of fluid in the lungs and all sorts of things going on. So the list of injuries was pretty dramatic. I had a torn aorta that should have probably killed me, but it didn't. They had to put a stent in that. Flail chest, which is something where you breathe in and your chest goes the wrong way, and all sorts of all the ribs were broken, all of those things. Too many things to list, really. But the main injury for the future was that the spine was completely broken at what's called T9. Your spine's divided from the cervical spine, then the thoracic area, then the lumbar area. and you count the vertebrae, and mine was completely broken at T9,
right.
which is about there.
Right.
So when it's completely severed there's nothing below,
Right.
nothing at all. That's called paraplegia. If it happens higher up, it can affect your arms as well, and that becomes tetraplegia. Okay. But mine was paraplegic at T9, so that's the technical description. Not that I knew. No. In fact, funnily enough, somebody said to me the other day, when did they tell you you were never going to walk and all that? And I don't actually know whether anybody did. I think I just knew, you know what I mean? Because you put your hand down, you can't feel your legs and what have you. And nothing came back weeks later off. And I kind of knew that, that was it. There was just not going to be any feeling there. So I spent many weeks in Salford Royal Infirmary in ICU to start with, then a high dependency unit. Eventually this came out and I could speak. That's quite a job, actually. They have to test whether you can swallow without choking. You have to write on a board and point to things, because you can't speak. And eventually they release the balloon that allows you to speak, and then when you finish, they close it back, open it up again, and you can't speak again. You can actually hear you. It's terrible. My wife thought it was great. Kept me quiet for a while. I should stress, by the way, probably worth mentioning, me and my wife have got sort of bizarre sense of humor between us. And although obviously it was a terrible time, we've subsequently joked about it. Yeah. I can't believe she missed the opportunity to get dressed up as an ape with all the doctor's staff to make me think I was in Planet of the Apes or something. Honestly. She even thought about bringing Charles, the grandson, in, but getting a 6-foot tall blonde bloke to come in and say, "All right, Grandad," we're a bit daft like that. But laughter gets you through some of this stuff.
It does. It does.
So what happened then? Yeah, I then got transferred to Pinderfields in Wakefield, which is a spinal unit. There are a number of spinal units around the UK. You'll have heard of Stoke Mandeville.
Yeah.
Very topical. That's where the Paralympics began.
Right.
That's the home of the Paralympic movement. And there's one in Wakefield, Pinderfields Hospital, and that is dedicated to spinally injured people. So when you go there, it's a little bit like, there's a comfort about it in that that everybody in there's got the same issue. All the staff completely understand what you're going through. And the whole atmosphere is about, come on, we now need to get you better because life's going to carry on. Yeah. And you can't just lie in bed. You've got to get up and you've got to start doing things. It's not quite a boot camp, but it is all about making you, I was going to say stand on your own 2 feet. That's not the right phrase at all, is it? But you know what I mean? It's about getting you to get on with stuff because you are going to be like this forever. Yeah. Difference between spinal injury and some other things. I'm not saying it's worse, but imagine you're told you've got cancer. In most cases, from that day, it's all about what can we do to make you better. If you suffer a spinal injury, life changes completely forever, and there is no getting better. So it is sort of quite different. It's just about learning how to cope rather than looking for a cure. Yeah. And it does literally change overnight. You're not ill, but overnight, you suddenly can't walk. And it's a different thing, really.
It's a huge shock to the system, isn't it? It's just to try and cope with that. I mean,
it is for you, yeah.
Just mentally, just to try and get your head around that, and yeah,
it is for you, but it's just as bad for those around you. I mean, my wife didn't ask for any of this. No. The family didn't, but it was a hell of a shock for them. So Pinderfields tried to get me better. To be honest, my rehab was really hit and miss because unfortunately the big sore I had on my back stopped me from doing a lot of the rehab that you would normally do. The first thing they teach you is how to get up and wash yourself and how to use the toilet. That you literally have to learn everything from scratch. God. You are just like a newborn baby. You have no control over your bodily functions whatsoever. If you're tetraplegic, you literally have to be fed because you can't move your arms.
Yeah.
And obviously you try and get better from that. So I had to learn all of those things, and I didn't do very well because of this sore on my back, which was big enough to put an orange in it. That's how bad that was. Ooh. And took months and months and months. In fact, one of the most depressing things was, I'll never forget arriving at Pinderfields late at night for admission, and a very blunt nurse called Will, got to love him. He was such a great, experienced nurse. He took one look at me and he said, well, he said, that's a bad sore you've got on your back there. You're not getting up till Christmas, mate. Because this was early September. Oh, no. But he was right. I had to stay in bed because this thing was so bad. Oh, no. And not only stay in bed, but you have to lie on your side.
Yeah.
All the time.
Oh.
So that hampered the rehab. But to be fair, they did the best to help me, and mixing with other people in wheelchairs and what have you, you very quickly realize you're not special. Don't play the drama queen, because the guy in the next bed is even worse than you, and he's smiling, so you better smile as well. So it kind of toughens you up for what the future holds.
Yeah, yeah.
But I won't deny I didn't have some black times there where you really do question, is there any point to this? Because you've no idea what horrible life is going to, all you can think about is everything you've lost. You've lost not just the ability to walk, you've lost, in my case, the house in Spain had to go straight away because it was on a hillside. There's no way I'd ever have got into it. The house where I used to live, I can't go back there because it's on 2 stories. I just couldn't do it. So I'm not going to be able to work, am I? I don't know. It's everything that you've lost. You make this list in your head, and you keep going over it again and again. I've lost this, I've lost this, and it takes you a long, long time before you start looking at the other side of the balance sheet and thinking, I can still do this. Maybe I could still do that. And so it takes a long time for you to get your head around not so much what you've lost, but what you can still do. It's hard. And it's hard for your partner. Very, very, very hard. Yeah. Because she didn't want to give up the house in Spain. She didn't want to give up this. She didn't want to move to a new house. It's very, very tricky.
Yeah, it's a change being forced on you, isn't it? And there's this sort of the change curve that you have that right at the start of it. You don't want to do it, and you're being kicked, dragging and screaming into it. And it's only when you actually start to get your head around it, and you actually start thinking, actually, yes, okay, well, I can do this, I can do that you actually start making progress with it. But
anybody who's studied change like this, whether it's relationship breakdown, whether it's losing your job, whether it's this sort of thing, there's a very recognized pattern. You start with disbelief, and I spent maybe weeks not actually accepting it had even happened.
Denial.
Then the anger kicks in. Then there's real anger. Then eventually a degree of acceptance, and you move on. But of course, it's not a straight line. You go backwards as well. Even I remember one point, I think it was 6 months in, I suddenly went back to the anger phase and couldn't cope with it. But you do eventually move forward. So I had to leave hospital eventually. I wasn't fully rehabilitated. I couldn't really look after my own washing and toilet regime. I had to have help with every aspect of that. But I did have to come home. Eventually, they're going to kick you out. I had to come home to a house I'd never seen. That was a bit bizarre. We were so lucky. We managed to find a bungalow, which is not easy in this part of the world because it is so hilly. But we found a lovely bungalow that was for sale. And I kept looking at it thinking, should we, shouldn't we? And then one day my wife said, if this bungalow gets sold, how are you going to feel? I said, I'll be so upset. We just got to buy it. I don't care. Thank God we had the means to, with some help from people, to fund it even before we sold the old one. And we had it sort of gutted and kitted out for a wheelchair user, nice smooth floors everywhere and wide doors and stuff, a wet room. So it was ideal. And that's where we are now. And we'll probably always be here There's no point ever moving from here. We're lucky, it's a nice place. But my wife did all of that with very little input from me. So, she had to shoulder an awful lot of responsibility. And for many, many months, when the accident was August 13, I came home on the 25th of July 14. So 2 weeks short of a year. And so she had to do all of that. And every night driving home to an empty house and leaving me. And to be honest, later on in the process, leaving me in the hospital, laughing and joking with all the nurses. And then she'd have the long drive home to an empty house. So you get to the point where it's even worse for the partner than it is for you. Yeah, which people might not always appreciate.
No, you do tend to focus on the person who's had the accident themselves, don't you? Yeah.
And everybody will say, "Oh, poor Brian," and Linda will get none of that. But it is, hard, very, very hard. 3/4 of relationships don't survive a spinal injury, so I'm lucky that mine has. I'm also desperately lucky in that financially we were okay. I can't imagine what it must be like to lie in a hospital bed in Pinderfields, knowing that you're never going to walk again, and also knowing that you've got a job that you can't do again, and you've got a mortgage, and you've got young kids to. I can't imagine what that's like. I really can't. But that's the reality for many people. So there you go. That's the full story of the accident, everything that went with it, and the rehab. And that brings us up to July 14, when I came home and tried to get on with life. Wasn't very well. The first year I was home, I was fragile, still struggling. As I say, the even basic bodily function stuff took a long time to try and get under control. Again, I won't mince my words. If anybody doesn't know about paraplegia, it does leave you with no control over bodily functions. Left to their own devices, you would your bladder would just open as and when it wants to, and your bowels wouldn't. You'd end up constipated and be in all sorts of mess. But then it would just happen when it wanted to. So you have to learn to manage what is a bit of a free-for-all. You have to learn to control how your bladder works and bowels and everything like that. And it's not perfect.
Like you don't think about it. It's just
I can almost guarantee, if you met someone in the street who was paraplegic and said to them, "What's the one thing you would change?" You'd expect them to say, "I'd love to be able to walk again." No, it's probably number 3 on the list. Being able to control your bladder and bowels is number 1.
Wow.
Number 1. I can live with being in a wheelchair, to be honest with you. It's a bit of a nuisance, but I can cope with it. But it's that side of it that paraplegics and tetraplegics wish could be resolved.
Gosh. Number
2 is probably sexual function, because that's something that goes and you have to get it back by mechanical means, which is frustrating for a lot of people. But so walking's not actually number 1, which
amazing, isn't it?
I can tell from your reaction you wouldn't expect that.
No, I wouldn't. No, because you just tend to assume, don't you? Because I suppose it's what you see, isn't it?
Yeah. You see the wheelchair.
But this is why it's so good talking to people and getting the first-hand stories, and it's the same. When I do my talks and everything, people like to get the first-hand stories from people, from somebody who is actually trans and living that journey, and because we tell it like it is, don't we?
You have to. You'd be amazed. I mean, we can happily have conversations at the dinner table about bowels. Some of our friends think it's bizarre, but it's just normal now. And some things that at the time were horrifying, we now laugh at. Oh, do you remember that time when we were on the motorway and this happened and you had to? Oh God! How did we get through it? But absolutely. I remember being in the queue at Tesco, and something happened. I won't go into all the technical details, but it was a case of oh, spillage in aisle 3. Can we get somebody to clear? Sorry, everybody, I'll just go home now. And it's amazing how you just laugh at it because there's nothing you can do.
What else can you do? Yeah.
Anyway.
At what point did you start writing stories for Charles, your grandson?
There's a lot of negative stuff in that, isn't there? Let's get a bit more upbeat. Right. Well, this was a bit weird. As I say, he was 6 months old when I had my accident. In fact, he learned to walk whilst I was in hospital by pushing my wheelchair like a baby walker,
Wow. So he won't have ever remembered you.
No, he only knows this granddad in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
He's got 2 granddads, and he started to call me Grandad Wheels. That was the name he came up with when he was about 4, I suppose. His other granddad has a different name. And I kind of got thinking, well, I was a bit sad because it was obvious there were some things I was never going to be able to do with him. I can't run around playing football with him. I can't take him out walking up hills and things, which made me pretty sad because I had visions of doing all of those things. The things I can do, I'm a musician and I can teach him guitar and things like that. And, so there are things I can do. But I thought, I wonder at what point is he going to look at me and ask the question, why do you not walk around like everybody else, Grandad? Why are you in this chair? So what am I going to say when he does? Don't know when it's going to be, but he's going to ask. So I just wrote a silly story. I thought, well, I know he expects me to say something silly. I'm silly, Grandad. I'll tell him I had an accident. I was fighting a lion. Yeah, that's it. I was fighting a lion, and this lion pinned me down, and it hurt me, and my legs didn't work. So I wrote this very silly story, and my wife read it. She said, that's actually quite funny, that. And somebody else, I think daughter, read it and said, that's funny. Why don't you just give it a proper beginning and an end and make it into a story? So I did. And it just sat there on a piece of paper. I should add, although, career-wise, I've always been sort of a finance career and what have you. I've always been creative. I am a musician. I write songs. I record songs. I can write prose and stuff like that. And so I found it quite easy to write a story.
Yeah.
So my wife said, well, other people might want to read that. So we sent it as a Word document to a couple of friends, and they said, that's quite funny. So I thought, I'll write another one. And I wrote another one about a slightly different topic. And this one, as you know, it was when I'm in a supermarket, and I thought I could maybe do something with it. I've got nothing else to do. I've got loads of time in my hands. So I decided to send them off to lots of different publishers just to see, because I thought, hang on, main character is a wheelchair user. That's unusual. I'm disabled. So are there many disabled authors out there that are writing about disability? So there's an authenticity about it.
Yeah.
But my story was different, because a lot of stories about disability, I've got to be careful not to be rude to people here, but a lot of them are what I would call very sugary sweet stories. This is Timmy. Timmy is in a wheelchair. Let's all be nice to Timmy, boys and girls. Timmy needs to be made to feel normal. Oh, get over it. Yeah, I'm sorry, but kids don't want to read that.
No.
I sometimes think those stories are written more to make adults feel better.
Totally.
Kids want to read something daft.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. I've got a daft story here. So let's see. And I got all these lovely emails back saying, oh, we love your story, but it's not for us. Thank you very much. You're not a celebrity. So, you're on a hiding to nothing straight away. So I just parked that idea. But I thought, well, you know what? I'd quite like to do something anyway. So I'll see if I can find somebody to bring the stories to life, to draw some pictures. I cannot draw anything. I would struggle to draw a stick man, quite honestly. And I got in touch with a couple of people who said they'd like to have a go. And they came up with this character, Grandad Wheels. I thought, I love that. That's great. Can we do this? It needs this many pictures. Oh, that's hang on, that's a lot of commitment. I can't do that. So I think I had 3 false starts. But then I was just about to give up, and somebody said, have you tried writing to like art societies where you've got a lot of enthusiastic amateurs? Somebody might be interested. So I just wrote to the one in Halifax Art Society.
Yeah.
And I got a nice email back saying, oh, there's a lady here who, she's never done cartoons, but she's always fancied having a go. She does oil paintings and things. She's a very, very good artist. Would you like to let her have a look at it? I said, yeah, fine. Turns out she's retired like me. Funnily enough, used to work for the same bank, but that's by the by. Because if you're in Halifax, there's used to be a big bank here, and that's who we all work for. So she had a go, and I liked what she did. What she started off doing were very lifelike drawings. In fact, actually, I'm just going to reach over. I think I might have one.
Yeah, sure.
Oh no, this was a later version. She started off drawing them quite lifelike, and I said, you know what, these need to be cartoons, because some of the things this character's going to do, you can't do in real life. Like when he goes in a skateboard park, it needs to be a cartoony type.
Yeah.
He needs to be able to do somersaults and things, and I'm not sure that would happen.
Yeah.
So could you make them more cartoon-like? And this is the first one she did, which is that one there, which is
reflecting that. Just tilt it down a bit.
Is it? Hang on.
If you bring it up a bit and just tilt it.
How's that?
Tilt it down a bit more.
Is that better?
Oh, yeah, that's a bit better. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So that's me with Charles, the grandson, and the crazy spaniel dog that we have. And that's a direct copy of an actual photograph of that pose.
Okay.
And I thought, I love it. I like it. That's great. So she did lots of these pictures, and we ended up with a complete storyboard. I didn't know you needed a storyboard, but she did. She's good at this sort of thing. So we had a storyboard to show how you'd get from 1 to page 32 and how you'd turn, where you'd turn the page and what have you. And so we had a finished version. So what do we do now? Well, I had a few quid. She had a few quid. Let's publish it as a vanity project. Let's self-publish it. Let's be authors. You can do that nowadays. It's amazing, isn't it? 10 years ago you couldn't, but now you can get your own. You get yourself one of those ISBN codes on the back, and you register it with a publishing network and do all of those things, and you can do it yourself. Enter a friend of ours who happened to have his own printing business down the road. Coincidentally, when he was a lad, he was a carer to his uncle who was in a wheelchair for many years, and he wanted to be part of the project, if you like. So he came on board, and he helped us out with some of the costs. And we printed 1,000 books. And the first one, Charlie's Big Idea, which you've seen, was published on the 1st of November, 2019. There we go. Got it there.
Yeah.
And, for those that haven't seen it, probably better if you do it. Just give it a flick through to show what you've got in there. So it's a fully illustrated book.
Yeah.
1,500 words. There we go.
There we go.
Lots of nice pictures and text and what have you. There we go. There's the lion.
Yeah.
There's the lion that attacked me. Yeah.
Yeah. I've missed it.
And there's Granny, my wife, in there telling me off for talking nonsense.
Yeah.
So that's what we ended up with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So there we go. So the next thing we go is, who the heck's going to buy this thing? I know, let's sell it to family and friends. Come on, dig deep. You'll do it. So we had a bit of a launch party, and we invited people round, and they very kindly bought copies. And then me and my illustrator sat down and said, well, if we do sell any, why are we doing it? And we both decided that we'd do it for charity, because we didn't really want to make any money out of it. It was only going to be a small project. We thought, if we sell a few and make 500 quid and we can give it to charity, then that's job done. Everything will be great. So we did that, and we started selling them. And then...
And what was the charity?
2 charities. There's one called the Spinal Injuries Association, who do a lot of work for people with a spinal injury. They're a big charity, so they do a lot of lobbying and developmental work.
Yeah.
And then there's another smaller charity called Backup. And I love Backup because it's practical stuff. They they will take kids in wheelchairs and show them how to navigate streets and take them on activity holidays and things like
Fantastic.
that. Children in need, give them some money, and they do quite well out of it. But they're great.
Brilliant.
And they actually came into Pinderfields and ran a wheelchair skills course when I was there, showing you how to negotiate curbs and obstacles and things like that. And I found it really useful. Because there are skills you have to learn.
Of course.
So we decided we'd do it for them and told them, and they said, "Oh, great! Well, we'll share what you're doing, obviously, with our PR department." Irwin Mitchell Solicitors. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They're a big law firm.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of work with people with spinal injuries, especially where there are, negligent accidents involved. If a motorist hit me and I'd have identified him, I'd have been suing his, as you can imagine. And I got together with them and they said, well, our PR department might help. And they managed to get me on local TV, the BBC Look North programme. And that was great because overnight then there was quite a lot of interest. I did radio leads and BBC as well. I've missed a big bit out. I built my own website. That's right. Using one of the tools that you can get for free now. I built my own website and got grandadwheels.com and Grandad Wheels email address and what have you, and registered those. Spent lots of time doing something I've never done before, but I kind of figured out how you do it. And so we started to sell quite a few books. And then we hit a problem because it suddenly dawned on me that if we sell quite well, we're going to have to reprint it. And if we're going to reprint it, we have to plow lots and lots of money back in. So we thought we had this pot to give to the charity, but we were going to have to spend it reprinting another set of books.
Of course.
Yeah. So I went to my friends at Irwin Mitchell and said, look, is there any way you can help with this? And also a few other friends that I knew who were in business. And we got them to agree to sponsor us by covering all of our printing and development costs.
Wow, that's brilliant.
So they paid my friend who's got the printing business to do the design and the print. And so we had a zero cost of production.
Fantastic.
So if somebody buys one of these for £6.99, which is standard price for a kid's book, every single penny of that can go to the charity.
Amazing.
So that really is great, because literally if you only sell one book, it doesn't matter. It's all good. So charity gets money, you get a nice book. It's a win-win, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and they are fabulous books. I mean, I've read. I mean, I've got two of these here, and I've read them both to my daughter, and she loves them. Yeah, it's fantastic. And we were talking earlier about the age group. I mean, my daughter's 10 at the moment, and but yeah, she's more at the upper age group that you're aimed at, because you're aimed at a little bit younger than that. But,
to be honest, I would say primary school age children.
Yeah.
From reception up to the end of primary school, that's a perfect age group, because they are silly books. They're not very, as I say, sugary sweet books. They're a bit silly and a bit cheeky, which is what kids like, I think.
Yeah, they're great fun though. I think they're brilliant. There's real adventures that Grandad Wheels goes on, and it's just it's brilliant. And what got you started into giving talks at schools?
Yeah, well, that's people buy them. Obviously, the TV was great, and the website itself generates some sales. But I think there's only one bookshop that's got these, and it's just a local bookshop. And yeah, how else are you going to sell them? Well, it dawned on me that really the best market for this was schools. So Irwin Mitchell, there's a lot of luck happening here, but luck's a great thing. Sometimes it's against you, as it was when I had my accident. Sometimes it's for you. And Irwin Mitchell said, we'd like to do a little launch party for you as well at our offices in Leeds. And we'll invite the press and things like that. So we did that. And a friend of mine said, I know a head teacher in Leeds, very well-known head teacher. He'd love to come. Is that okay? I said, yeah, of course it is. And he happened to have another head teacher staying with him, and said, can he come as well? I said, yeah, of course he can. And at the end of the evening, I did a bit of a book signing after this, reception at Irwin Mitchell. And this chap came up and said, right, I want 60 books, please, for my school. And the chap with him said, I want 60 as well. Really? 120 books. Wow.
Fantastic.
Now, he's a guy called Chris Dyson. He's the head teacher of Parklands Primary School, which is in a very deprived area of Leeds. And this is just a genius head teacher. He's turned this school round from being really, really a difficult school into just such an upbeat, wonderful place. He's Mr. Dynamo. And whenever the press want a comment from a head teacher in this part of the world, he's the go-to guy, you know.
Yeah.
He is superb. And he's been a wonderful advocate on that thing called Twitter, which we all use.
Yeah.
I only use it for the books. Because that's where a lot of teachers live. They all.
So you don't have to make
they all live on
excuses.
Twitter. Well, I don't like Twitter. I think it's a horrible place, but it's the only way I can get in front of teachers, you know.
Yeah,
so
I use it.
So I use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm the same.
So you know, he's invited me into a school, and other head teachers got in touch and said, "Would you come to my school?" I said, "Yeah, okay. So here's the deal. I'll come to your school. This is what I charge, but you'll get 30 odd books that you can sell to parents. And if you sell them to parents, I'm free. I don't cost you a penny." So that works, doesn't it? And that enables me to give more to charity. So pre-pandemic, second book in November 20 came out, Chaos at Cheap Foods, a silly story about me in a supermarket. There you go. And that's Granny in the freezer, my wife, knocked into the freezer.
In the freezer.
Yeah, there she is, poor girl. Yeah. The idea behind that adventure is a bit like the first one. Every story I've written, it says a little bit about what it's like to be in a wheelchair, but not heavily so.
That's not the main theme at all, is it? It's just
kids just want to laugh.
Yeah.
So in the second book, when I'm complaining that my arms are aching, pushing myself to the supermarket, Charlie, the grandson in the stories, decides he'll help me by attaching a fire extinguisher to the back of my chair because he's seen that in a YouTube video. And of course, he pulls the pin out and off I go around the store, causing mayhem and end up knocking Granny into the frozen chips.
Yeah.
Which I'll never hear the last of. And again, it's just a silly story. So that came out November 20. Up to March 20, right up to lockdown, I was going into schools doing readings and playing, you know, doing stuff with the kids. And then, of course, it all got knocked on the head with COVID, which was a real shame. But thank goodness it started up again now, and I've done a few since the spring, and in September I've got quite a few more bookings coming in because that's how I'm going to sell books now.
Yeah,
now that's where the book sales are going to come from. It's going to be schools, but there are so many primary schools out there.
Yeah.
And I've done Zoom now. I do virtual ones on Zoom.
Yeah,
which is good.
Yeah.
The other thing that the kids love doing, I don't know. I hope I included them, but did you get one of these with the book?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a little booklet that's got games and puzzles in it. Grandad, it's just called Wheelie Fun Things to Do.
Yeah, my daughter enjoyed doing that.
Did you see? You must have seen the template of the design your own wheelchair.
Oh yes, yeah. I've designed one.
Have you? Oh, you should send it to me.
Yeah.
You should send it to me. That's the most fun in schools. I get the teachers to do an A4 printout of that. And what I say to the kids is, look, wheelchairs are boring. You got two big wheels at the back, two little wheels at the front, and a seat. It's very, very boring. What if it could have rockets attached to it? What if it could have springs or, you know, jet propulsion? What if it could fly? What if it had? And
we had great fun with that.
the kids go mad, and some of the crazy designs they come up with are just fantastic. One of the best ones was the kid, he drew it, and I said, "What's that button on the side there?" He said, "When you press that button, you get a cheeseburger."
Oh yeah.
I said, if somebody made that wheelchair, I'd have it. You know what I mean? I'd buy that wheelchair. It's great.
My one has a gin and tonic button.
This is even better. Even better. Yeah, right. I challenge you now to put that up on. If you've still got it, or did you throw it away? You should put that.
Still got it. I think
right. You need to edit that into the podcast. I want to see that. They are great fun.
My one, yeah, because we sort of drew it together, and because my daughter said, "Well, you're better at drawing than me, so I'll tell you what to put on, and then you draw it." So she was giving me instructions, and it didn't really have a gin and tonic button on it. I was just joking.
Well, it should have.
I think one's going to be added.
That would be perfect. That would be perfect. I mean, one of the best ones I saw was me being pulled along by a giant multicolored turtle on roller skates with rockets on its back, whilst doing karaoke and drinking beer from a machine that dispensed beer. I mean, these are the sort of wheelchairs we should have. Far more exciting than the normal one. So that's what I do in schools.
Yeah, mine looks a bit like an old-fashioned car. I think that's probably.
But it's great to see the kids' imagination, and they stop thinking about a wheelchair as a boring thing, and it's just fun. They like to see me doing wheelies down the corridor and things like that. And so I do touch. I always start off by asking them, do they know somebody in a wheelchair, and do they know what kinds of wheelchairs there are? What do they think might be difficult in a wheelchair? Stairs, which are very difficult. Getting in a vehicle, that's difficult. Going on holiday, all of those things. And then you let them ask questions, and you get every question under the sun. How do you get in bed? How do you do this? How do you do that? Does it hurt? And it's great to be able to just answer questions, openly.
It's brilliant, because this sort of thing is just exposure, because I think most prejudice and bigotry comes from a fear of the unknown. And so by going there and just showing them that you're just an ordinary person.
Exactly.
You just happen to be using a wheelchair.
Exactly. And that was the point of the original story for Charles, to say, look, I can be just as much fun, your granddad in a wheelchair, as it's a lie, because there are some things I can't do, but I just do different things with him, we just do different things. Yesterday, for instance, he came round with a skateboard, and I've got quite a clever thing that I can attach to my wheelchair. You've probably never seen one, because there aren't many around, but basically it clips onto the front of my wheelchair, and it's a powered front wheel. So it's got a battery in it, and away I go, and it pulls me along at crazy speeds.
Actually, I have seen this. Yeah.
Okay. They're meant for people like me who don't want to be getting in and out of the wheelchair, because I can't, it's not easy.
Yeah.
So this thing, I get where I'm going, I just unclip it, and then I'm just in my ordinary wheelchair.
Brilliant.
So I was using that yesterday, Charles hanging on to me from behind, and I was pulling him along on his wheelchair, on his skateboard.
Brilliant.
When he was tiny, he used to sit on my knee, and we'd go off everywhere. But he's a bit too big for that now. But no other granddad can do that, so that's quite cool.
Yeah.
Theme of this is cool people. Absolutely. He thinks I'm cool when I do that. Brilliant. Because other granddads can't do that, so that gives me a tick in the box.
Glad to see you're on brand as well. Well done.
Well, give you a little plug there, a little plug.
Well, there you go.
You're plugging the book, so I'll give you a little plug there. Funniest thing was when in the books, Charles is forever 6. He's never going to get old. Even if I write 100 stories, he's still going to be 6.
Yeah.
A bit like Dennis the Menace, he's never going to grow old. But he did actually ask me one day, Grandad, why are you in a wheelchair? So fiction became reality. That day dawned when he was going to ask me that question. So I gave him a very careful explanation of what it's all about. I said, you know that knobbly thing that runs down your back, and I ran my finger on his spine, and I said, so that connects your brain to different bits of your body, and mine unfortunately has got a little break in it, so mine doesn't talk to my legs. So when my brain says, come on legs, we need to move around, my legs can't hear. So that's why I don't move around. And he looked at me very seriously and he said, what's for dinner? That was it. That was the extent of his interest.
That
couldn't care less.
That is kids' foot. And I've had similar sort of things, when I've explained about being trans to kids as well. They just get it. They just, oh, okay, yeah. I mean,
yeah, all right.
I had a situation one time when, where this is obviously pre-COVID, we were in a children's play area, and my daughter went in to play, and I was just having a coffee. She went in, and she still calls me dad because I'm proud to be a dad, and
Right. Okay.
and I love her calling me dad. But obviously, it outs me because it's a gender term, and she's actually getting to the point now where she calls me Katie in public, but dad in private, which is perfect, really. But because it doesn't out me. But at the time, she was just calling me dad all the time, and anyway, she went off to play, and I just had coffee. And then she wasn't too long before she came back. And she said, Dad, is there any chance you can come in and play with me? I said, yeah, no problem. So I took my shoes off and went into the soft play area. Because it wasn't long before she called me dad. And then she said, and then because one of these other kids heard, and this little boy, he's put his hands on his hips and his head on one side, and he looked at me and said, so are you her mum or her dad? So I said, I'm her dad, but I look like this because I'm transgender. And it was like, oh, and then it was like bees around a honey pot, and they were all around me. And then, so then I found myself doing an impromptu trans awareness training session using age-appropriate language in a children's play area. But I just had to deal with the situation as it came up. And as soon as I told them, I said, oh, okay. And then they just carried on playing. And that's it.
Okay, yeah. Not
interested. Exactly the same thing. Kids are so accepting, and just like, and they're just off.
I love that. I love that. And I always say I would always say to any adults, never stop your kids asking questions. I can't imagine anything worse than a kid wanting to ask me a question and mum or dad saying, no, don't bother them, man. Don't ask that. Let them ask, because it'll be asked from a position of complete innocence and curiosity. Yeah. There's nothing loaded about any of the questions.
No.
Whereas with adults, sometimes, the questions are loaded. Yeah. So yeah, just let them ask away. And in schools, you do get every question under the sun. And do you fall out of your chair? Yes, frequently. And when I do, sometimes it's all awkward. And how do you do this? How do you do that? How do you go to the toilet? And you just answer.
Yeah.
Just answer.
Really?
You can't ever not answer honestly either, because that really is not the right thing to do.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, honesty all the way. And then they just get it. And then, that's fine. Yeah. So
they totally get it.
Yeah.
Grown-ups on the other hand, do ask the most dumb questions. You must get it as well. But
yeah, just a bit.
The thing that you get if you're in a wheelchair is, I don't know what it is, but people think they have to say something. You don't have to. Like if you get in a lift, everybody stares at the floor and doesn't speak. If you get in a lift in a wheelchair, people have to say something. And some of the things they come out with, they're not meant to be daft, but people just don't engage the brain, So, I've had everything. I was on a cruise once and with another guy in a wheelchair, and, oh, look at you two. Are you going to the Paralympics? No. Why would be doing that? Have you got a license for that thing? No. Oh, what's the speed limit for that thing? No. Can I sit on your lap? Can I put my shopping on your lap? I had that one in a lift. This woman, she said, oh, can I put my shopping on your lap? I went, no, you can. I can't say what I actually said because it was a bit rude.
Did it end in off?
Yes, it did. Funnily enough, yeah. Can you have sex? The standard answer to that, by the way, is what now? Here?
I haven't got the time.
Shouldn't we have a drink? Shouldn't we have a drink first? Oh, what happened to you then? Now, the jury's out on that one. I mean, I am sure you are in touch with other people who are in the same situation as you vis-a-vis transgender. I'm in the same group as a lot of people in wheelchairs. So there are various groups that we all frequent and what have you, Facebook groups. Yeah. And we all compare notes on these things. And the jury's out on whether it's offensive, but some people get really upset if people say, oh, what happened to you then? I don't actually, because I don't mind it. But sometimes it's the most inappropriate time to be asking the question, complete stranger.
Yeah.
Oh, what's happened to you then? And it's fun to make stuff up. You usually say that you were a bomb disposal expert or stuff like that. My favorite is, oh, I forgot the safe word. That usually doesn't encourage any more questions after that,
Brilliant.
But you sometimes you wish you'd had a much more witty answer than the one you gave, but you only think of it 5 minutes later.
Yeah, I've been in that situation sometimes. I thought, I wish I'd said but then you tend to sort of remember it for another time. You think, I've got it stored up now. So then
yeah, exactly. It's there ready to go the next time somebody asks me that damn question. But look out, reversing, beep, beep, beep. I've not heard that before,
Yeah. No.
But I think in most cases it's not nasty or anything. It's just people that they just think they should say something.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
there is rudeness is shocking.
Yeah.
The first cruise I went on, cruises are good for people in wheelchairs. Because you get to go to your cabin and get settled in, and then you get to visit all these different places without all the hassle of moving cabins. It's great.
Because on the ships it's all lifts, isn't it?
So but there's the problem. There's the problem. I've been physically dragged out of the way by old people wanting to get in And I remember on one ship, I was politely waiting for the lift, which I have to use, obviously.
Yeah.
And this old couple just came and pushed me out of the way so they could get in. It's unbelievable. And people going down one floor, and you're waiting forever for a bloody lift. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
So that can drive you nuts.
Yeah.
But I'm not at the militant end of disability. If I go, like last night, I went to a restaurant round the corner, been there before, but it's changed hands. Went in. Oh, the tables and chairs that used to be here have gone. Oh no, you have to eat up on this level now. Nope, I ain't getting up there. No chance. Now, some of my more militant friends will be complaining vociferously and marching up and down and writing to their counsellor and what I mean. My view is I haven't got the energy for that. I'll just take my money somewhere else, where they look after you. But some things do get on your nerves. The lack of drop curbs and that sort of stuff that winds you up. Yeah. But you just got to deal with it.
Yeah, it's really good to highlight these issues, though. But
I do if it's thoughtlessness, I will highlight them. But I'm never going to organise protest marches and things. I'm 64 years old. Life's too short.
Yeah,
I just want a quiet life, Yeah.
Now, something I've got to ask you about is you've got a brilliant story about how you discovered the person who saved your life.
You're going to get me emotional now.
Yeah, you're probably going to get me emotional. So it doesn't take much to.
I'll try not to. But this was utterly bizarre. I don't know why I did it. Just one day, I had this down jacket, the sort of thing that you see people up mountains on. I'd had it when I would. No, I've given the story away there. I shouldn't. My daughter was wearing it, and it was a very cold, snowy day, and she was out walking our dog, and she came back, and I said, "How's the jacket?" And she said, it's quite nice. I said, really, she said, well, the zip's broken and what have you. Oh, okay. And I don't know why I did this. Maybe I was just bored. But I wrote an email to the company called Mountain Equipment, which a lot of people have heard of. They sell down jackets and things. And I wrote this stupid email saying to the complaints department, I'd like to complain about the quality of this jacket, which my daughter wore this morning in the snow, and she said it just kept her warm. I distinctly remember this jacket keeping me hot when I first bought it in 1976. I think it was 76. And I've had it all this time, and frankly, it's not performing as well as it used to do. And I even enclosed photographs of me as a lad in this jacket, then my wife and the kids. And I don't know why I did it. I just said, please, I look forward to you replacing this faulty item before I go to Watchdog or something. And it was just a silly tongue-in-cheek email. I don't know why I did it.
Yeah.
And then I got a reply from Mountain Equipment saying, oh, you gave us a bit of a laugh there. This was passed to me by our complaints department. We will replace the jacket. We hope you've kept the receipt. Obviously I haven't. But then she said something quite bizarre. She said, I took the trouble of Googling you. I didn't even know I was on Google, to be honest. And I noticed that you had a big accident. That accident happened virtually outside my front door. And I remember it happening. I thought, what? what a ridiculous coincidence, because she lived in this little village in Derbyshire and she actually remembered it happening. And wow. And she said, we'd love to replace the jacket and maybe make you something custom made for you being in a wheelchair. Wow, amazing. Anyway, I met up with them a long time later and they replaced the zip and everything and gave me this nice new jacket. So that was utterly bizarre. Yeah. And then right out of the blue, gets me this. Yeah, right out of the blue, I was contacted by a lady who said, you don't know me, but I'm the person who saved your life. I got into the river and saved you by holding your head out of the water. Turns out she was a friend of the father of this girl at Mountain Equipment. What a ridiculous coincidence. So I was able to say thank you. That was good. Also, I found out about the two lads who were camping who raised the alarm, and they had visited the campsite a year later and asked around and was told that I died. So I was able to shock them brilliantly when I got in touch and said, hello, I didn't die. I'm still here. And they were genuinely shocked by that. Yeah. So that was a nice sort of happy ending.
Yeah.
Wow. Gets me that every time.
I'm not surprised though. Amazing. Absolutely.
When you know you owe somebody your life, that's quite gets you. Does. So there you go.
It does.
So that was good fun. Anyway.
Wow. But what a coincidence though. Just
I know, but why did I send that stupid email? I don't know. There's another thing actually. Yeah. Funnily enough, just reminded me of something else that the week before I had my accident, we were out walking. There was a bit of a sort of a charity walk. It was more of a pub crawl, really, but you had to go up some hills and things. And completely and utterly out of character, I ran up this hill. I just ran and ran and ran up this hill to the top. And the people we were walking with, my friends, thought, what the hell's wrong with him today? I don't know. I just did. And that was the last time I ever ran. Why? I don't know. Did somebody tell me? Ooh, spooky, that, isn't it? You don't know, do you?
God.
But yeah.
Gets anyway, that sort of thing, doesn't it?
I just thought about it. I thought, why did I do that? It was so utterly out of character for me to just suddenly decide to run up this hill. I just felt this burst of something. I wanted to do it. Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Spooky, that else, maybe one for another podcast. That.
Yeah. Wow.
Paranormal or something like
that. Yeah.
Anyway. Listen, I should tell people as well, thanks to other people's generosity, I've managed to give these two charities 13,500 quid so far.
Wow.
And hopefully that will just keep on climbing. One thing that really, really got me, a friend of mine in Spain, he bought a book on the website, but he sent me a message and said, I've just bought one of your books, but I don't want it. So what do you mean? He said, I want you and Charles to give it away to somebody. What? He said, just find somebody who'll like it and give it to them, please. So where were we? I think we were out and about in Halifax and we saw a little lad in a wheelchair. So me and Charles just gave him the book and said, have a read of this. And when you've read it, give it to somebody else. And I told some of my Facebook friends about this and loads of people started doing it. So loads of people started buying books, paying the money and telling me and Charles to give these books away.
What a lovely idea.
So we call these our traveling books. So far, they've made it to Australia, New Zealand, Canada, various places. Brilliant. And that's a brilliant win-win because somebody buys a book for $6.99, which goes to charity. Some kid somewhere gets a lovely book.
Yeah.
So, they get the satisfaction of having done it. The charity gets money and some kid somewhere just gets a book for free.
Lovely.
And that's a nice thing. So those traveling books and if people look at my website, there's some nice pictures of people who've received these books.
Lovely idea. That's great, isn't it? Well done.
And please, if anybody's listening to this and they want to get involved in it, just have a look, grandadwheels.com. You can buy the books there. You can see more about the whole project and read about the charities. And there we go.
Because that's ideal for people who haven't got kids that are young enough.
Yeah, I had,
but even if I hadn't, that would have been a great thing Because it would have been
it
a
was
way
just
of
a
contributing.
lovely, and we shocked a few people. I think we were in John Lewis in Leeds, and there was this guy in a wheel. By the way, we don't just give them to people in wheelchairs, but we happened to see this chap in a wheelchair, and we had one with us. And I said to Charles, let's just give that bloke a book. And he went, "Oh, what, you're not selling it?" I said, "No, just want you to have it. And maybe if you've got grandkids or whatever." And he sent me a lovely email saying, "Yes, I read it to my own grandkids, and we've now given it to our local primary school." And I thought, this is great. And that's because somebody else bought the book and just wanted me to give it away.
Lovely.
So that was nice. I like that.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, Brian, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really has. Thank you so much. I've absolutely loved it.
I'm plugging myself now. Don't forget, next book, end of September, featuring.
Oh, yes.
Paralympic gold medalist, I hope, this week, Hannah Cockcroft, who is a wheelchair racer. She's from Halifax. So she's agreed to be in the next book. So I won't tell you what happens when Grandad Wheels and her end up in a race.
Oh, exciting.
Top secret. But again, with that one, all the proceeds will go to charity, and that's out at the end of September. So if anybody's interested, please get a book. Let me give some more money to charity.
Fantastic. And they can get your books from your website. So
it's the only place you can get them. Grandadwheels.com.
Brilliant. I'll put a link on that at the end as well.
Yeah, so. And if you just Google Grandad Wheels, I come out top on Google anyway, which is nice.
Yeah.
So
brilliant. Brilliant. Oh,
so there you go. I hope that was marginally interesting.
It's been such a pleasure talking to you. I've been really looking forward to talking to you, Brian.
How long's that taken? Times. Oh my God! Look at that.
My interviews are always long.
Wow, it flies past, doesn't it?
It does. It does. But it's been brilliant, and thank you so much, Brian.
Thanks for the opportunity. I've really enjoyed that.
Please keep in touch, and
I will.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for watching as well. And so I've got lots more people lined up for Cool People. I'm absolutely loving doing this, so I'm not going to stop doing it anytime now. So see you on the next one.
Okay, bye.